Heartwarming reunion, Millionaire returns early to discover an incredible life-changing surprise. Jake Thompson hung up the phone, his heart racing. He had just closed a deal that would solidify his status as one of the top executives in the city. But the celebration fizzled when the distress call came. His father, a proud veteran of Maplewood, was seriously ill. Memories slammed into him growing up in hand-me-downs, the scent of his mother's homemade pie in their cozy kitchen, and his father's unwavering work ethic that shaped his ambition to escape small-town life. The tears were instant. He had left Maplewood chasing the American dream, but now he was torn. Just days later, Jake's luxury car rolled down the familiar streets. The sights as vibrant as ever welcomed him back. The local diner buzzed with laughter, the aroma of freshly baked pies calling out to him like a siren. Neighbors waved with bright smiles, their unity palpable. Yet, standing beside the familiar shops was a shadow of unspoken tension. Had success changed the way they viewed him? Diving into family dinners, he shared nostalgia with his siblings over mugs of coffee, but it became clear that Jake's wealth created an invisible barrier between them. Each laugh felt strained, each comment slightly off. With every bite of pie, the past echoed loudly, their father's generous spirit, always giving to the community with unseen sacrifices, had set a benchmark for all of them. But all they could see was Jake's corporate trappings. Dad's been working hard on some initiatives in town, his sister Sarah said one evening, her voice barely above a whisper as they cleared their plates. Jake nodded, but didn't fully grasp the depth of her revelation. His father had always cared about the community, pouring love into every venture he touched, but in Jake's mind, the glamour of city life had overshadowed those simpler values. Before he knew it, tensions escalated during a raucous family reunion dinner. The warm ambience turned electric as Jake exchanged nervous glances with Sarah. "You think money makes you better than us?" she questioned, her brow furrowed with pain. The room went silent. Her words pierced. It wasn't just about wealth, it was familial pride and duty hanging in the air. Just as Jake was about to leave, fueled by anger, an unexpected revelation flipped the script. People began to share how Jake's achievements had inspired hope in Maplewood. They were seizing their dreams because he had shown them it was possible. Swells of emotion rushed through him. Tears brimmed in his eyes. He wasn't just a millionaire, he was also a beacon of possibility. Jake was left breathless, the walls around his heart slowly crumbling. How could he have been so blind? In that moment, he recognized that true successes weren't rooted in monetary gains but in lifting others up. His father's secret community initiative, targeting underprivileged youths, was on the verge of collapse. And that beat like a drum in his heart. Can I really heal this chasm? Jake wondered as he looked at the faces he loved, feeling both excitement and dread. The weight of his past decisions loomed heavy, but there was also hope. At that moment, he realized a colossal choice lay before him. Would he prioritize his ivory tower business, or would he come back home, rediscover his roots, and rebuild the community he loved? Jake sat at the dining table, the charm of the old wooden surface contrasting sharply with the weight of his decisions. The laughter from moments ago faded, leaving an echo of tension that hung in the air. He could see his siblings exchanging glances, concern mixed with familiarity, a bittersweet reminder of the bond they once shared. "Dad worked his whole life to help this town," Jake said suddenly, breaking the silence. The conviction in his voice surprised even him. "And I've been so focused on my own success, I've lost sight of that. I didn't realize how much it mattered." Sarah's eyes widened as she absorbed his words. "So what are you saying? You're ready to step back? To help?" Jake nodded slowly, feeling the stirring inside him. It was scary to think of stepping away from the life he had carved out, but he could already see glimpses of a path unfolding. "Dad's initiative, I want to help make it thrive. I want to bring the community together, just like he always did." His siblings exchanged glances, a flicker of hope igniting between them. There was something familiar in the way they leaned in, the way their shared history pooled around them like a comforting blanket. But along with that warmth came uncertainty. Could they really bridge the gap that had formed? The following days saw Jake enveloped in a whirlwind of activity. He started by visiting the community center, the heart of the town, where his father had poured years of work. The walls were adorned with faded photographs of past events. Children's laughter echoed in his ears. It was smaller than he remembered, the once vibrant colors of its walls now chipped and dull. Everywhere Jake looked, there were signs of wear, but also whispers of possibility. He spent hours talking to the employees, hearing their thoughts and dreams for the center. They shared stories, not just of struggles, but of hope and ambition, reigniting something dormant within him. He began drafting plans, feasible and bright ideas that could uplift the community and inspire the youth. That Saturday, he arranged a town hall meeting, curious and nervous about the turnout. As he walked into the familiar hall, his heart raced. The faces looking back at him were a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Neighbors whispered among themselves, unsure of what to expect from a man who had seemingly turned his back on them. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice steady but warm. "I've realized that in pursuing success, I lost sight of something greater. We're in this together, and I want to rekindle that connection." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Jake's confidence wavered, but he pressed on. "I want to invest in our youth, to create opportunities and inspire dreams. Together, we can breathe life back into Maplewood." Jake's passion filled the room, and one by one, hands began to rise. Suggestions poured in, dreams emerged, and suddenly there was a sense of unity that had been missing for so long. Laughter returned, just like the warm pie aromas he remembered from childhood, but as the meeting concluded and people filed out, one lingering question remained in his mind. Would they truly trust him, after all this time? It was that lingering uncertainty that kept him awake at night. With his heart settled in determination, he prepared for the next steps, yet deep down, he knew a storm was brewing. Would he be able to truly mend the rifts he had caused, or would his past haunt him in ways he couldn't foresee? As he looked out over Maplewood, he sensed the echoes of change unfolding, but at what cost? Jake stood at the community center's doorway the next morning. Sunlight streamed in, illuminating dust particles dancing in the air. The scent of fresh paint mingled with old wood and echoes of laughter. It felt like a new beginning, but the knot in his stomach reminded him of the weight of expectations. Today was the day he would meet with those willing to help shape a brighter future for Maplewood. As he stepped inside, the energy buzzed. Volunteers had gathered early, armed with paintbrushes, smiles, and an enthusiasm Jake hoped would feed the dreams he had for their town. He felt a flicker of excitement. This was how change began, one small act at a time. "Jake!" called out Amy, the center's longtime director. She rushed over, her hair bobbing with each step. "We were just about to start. Everyone's ready to brainstorm." An eclectic mix of familiar faces greeted him: parents, young adults, even some kids. It was heartening to see such a turnout, but Jake couldn't shake the doubt that lingered. Could these people truly believe in him again? He caught sight of a familiar pair of blue eyes: the town's high school principal, Mr. Daniels. The older man had always been a pillar in the community and stood at the forefront of change, advocating for the youth. Jake waved him over. "Glad to see you here, Mr. Daniels." "Thanks for coming," Jake said, trying to match his enthusiasm. The principal nodded. "Jake, as long as you're leading, we'll follow. People need someone to rally around." Jake felt a sense of warmth wash over him. Maybe they really could do this together. As they gathered in a circle, the brainstorming began. Ideas flowed, reviving the after-school program, creating a farmer's market, restoring the community garden. Each suggestion ignited more excitement. Laughter echoed off the walls, and for a moment, it felt like the old days when his father could rally the town with just a smile. But amidst the creativity, Jake's heart skipped when Sarah's voice cut through the excitement. "I think we should organize a festival to celebrate the town's history. It could be both fun and a way to bring in new people." The idea rippled through the group, and soon they were throwing around festival themes, discussing food, activities, and remembering the traditions lost over the years. "Let's call it the Maplewood Heritage Festival," shouted a voice from the back. Cheers erupted, and for the first time in years, Jake felt more than just hope. He felt unity, but just as the euphoria reached its peak, a sudden silence blanketed the room. The main door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside, an unfamiliar presence. With a confident stride, the woman scanned the crowd, finally fixing her gaze on Jake. He felt the room grow tense. "Jake Harper?" she called out, her voice slicing through the buzz of excitement like a knife. "Yes?" Jake replied, feeling the weight of her stare. His heart began to race again, the earlier warmth replaced by a chill of uncertainty. "I need to talk to you," she said, closing the distance between them. The group's attention shifted, curiosity mixing with concern. Jake's mind raced with questions. Who was she? What did she want? The room felt charged. Would this encounter derail the progress they'd just made, or could it somehow lead to a revelation that would change everything? Beneath the surface of his rising anxiety, he sensed something more, an opportunity he had yet to grasp. Perhaps it was time for more than just community connections. Maybe, just maybe, this was a turning point for him as an individual. As he took a step closer, ready to face the unknown, Jake was left wondering, what could this woman reveal about his past that would alter not just his journey but that of Maplewood forever? Jake took a deep breath, steadying himself as the woman approached. Her dark hair framed a face etched with determination, and the intensity in her blue eyes mirrored his uncertainty. There was something familiar about her, but he couldn't quite place it. The room seemed to fade away, the chatter of volunteers blurring into a distant hum as he braced himself for whatever revelation awaited him. "Who are you?" he managed to ask, struggling to maintain steady eye contact. "I'm Mia," she replied, a small smile breaking through her confidence. "I've been looking for you, Jake. We need to talk about your father." His heart sank. He hadn't expected this. The name itself was a portal to memories he thought he had buried deep. "What do you mean?" he asked, tension knotting in his stomach. "Your father left something behind. Something important." An audible gasp rippled through the gathered crowd. Whispers filled the air, casting a shadow over the festival plans they had just begun to set in motion. Jake's mind reeled. After so many years, was he finally going to confront the legacy that had haunted him since childhood? "Let us go outside, shall we?" Mia suggested, her voice calm but firm, gesturing towards the sunny courtyard where flowers bloomed, brightening the dull ache in his heart. As they stepped out, the warmth of the sun enveloped Jake. He felt the weight of eyes on his back, the collective anticipation of the townspeople. For a moment, he registered their worry, their curiosity. It filled him with an odd mix of pride and fear. Flashes of his father's failure and triumph flickered through his mind like an old film reel, fragile memories weaving together the man he missed and the one he wanted to forget. "Your father believed in second chances," Mia said, her voice gentle yet resolute as they settled on a wooden bench amidst the vibrant blooms. "He wanted you to know the truth before she hesitated, searching for the right words, before he passed." Jake looked away, shielding himself from the painful rush of emotions. The memories associated with his father often felt like pieces of a jigsaw that never quite fit together, wild stories of adventures intermingled with worry and despair that his father would never be free from his past. Mia placed a hand reassuringly on his forearm. "Jake, you don't need to be afraid. Your father wasn't just a man of mistakes. He had a vision for Maplewood, a vision he wanted you to carry on." His heart raced. Did that mean there was something left for him? Something that could reconnect him with the town and bring forgiveness for both his father and himself? "What are you holding back?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. The yearning for closure clawed at him. Mia hesitated, her gaze drifting over the town's landscape before returning to him. He left behind a plan, a proposal for a community project, a legacy he dreamed of bringing to life with you. Jake felt a flicker of something, hope, perhaps. But doubt still lingered, clouding his thoughts. "Do you have it?" "It's in the safe at the old house," she said softly. "I came looking for you because I think we can bring it to life, together." The thought sent shivers down his spine. Could he really face the past that had haunted him and embrace a future that beckoned? The Maplewood Heritage Festival seemed like the perfect stage for it, but would the truth be a bridge or a barrier? As he stared into Mia's eyes, a connection began to form, an understanding that sometimes, facing the past was the only way to build a future. Yet uncertainty loomed large. Would he be strong enough to step into the light, or would he succumb to the shadows of fear that had dogged him so long? "Let us go back," he finally said, his voice steadying. "It's time to see what my father left behind." And with that simple decision, the promise of revelation hung in the air, electrifying the atmosphere of anticipation as they walked back towards the crowd. Would this be the closure he longed for, or the beginning of another set of challenges to face? As they reached the door, Jake felt the weight of the moment. This was a turning point, but it still left him pondering one question: what if the truth revealed something he couldn't bear to accept? As they stepped through the door, the festival buzzed with energy, yet Jake felt a heavy silence settling around him, as if the world shrunk down to just him and Mia. The laughter and chatter of the townsfolk faded into the background, their faces blurring into a canvas of expressions: anticipation, curiosity, concern. Wondering what they were expecting, he couldn't help but feel that the weight of their unvoiced questions was pressing down on him. Mia squeezed his arm, grounding him. "You can do this," she encouraged softly, her eyes a beacon of warmth. He nodded, though doubt clung to him like a damp fog, stubbornly refusing to lift. More than anything, he wished for clarity. Once they reached the center of the festival, the atmosphere was alive with excitement. Colorful stalls were set up, families gathered, and the smell of sweet funnel cakes filled the air. It was a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside Jake. He had always loved the vibrancy of this place, but now it felt overwhelming, a reminder of everything he had walked away from. "Hey everyone," Mia called, drawing attention as they stepped into view. "Can we have your attention for a moment?" The crowd hushed, eyes shifting toward them, and Jake felt the gaze of 1,000 questions directed his way. It was a spotlight he didn't want, yet he stood there, heart racing, ready to dive into unfamiliar waters. Mia continued, "We have something important to share about Jake's father. A legacy. A dream." Jake's stomach twisted. The word legacy reverberated in his mind. What did it mean for him? As they waited for the crowd to absorb her words, he took a deep breath. People's expressions shifted from confusion to interest, murmurs rippling through the audience. Could they feel the anticipation, too? Mia beckoned him forward. "Jake, go on," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper as she gestured for him to take the spotlight. With hesitant steps, he moved closer to the makeshift stage. Faces from his past stared back at him: neighbors, friends, the school bullies from his youth, all watching, waiting for him to speak. Hi," he stammered, his throat suddenly going dry. "I know it's been a while since I've been back here. For a long time, I didn't want to come home." A shudder ran through the crowd, some nodded knowingly. "But I learned something," he continued, finding his voice, feeling an odd sense of power in sharing his truth. "My father, he had dreams for Maplewood. Dreams I didn't understand until now. Dreams I think we can still make happen." The weight on his shoulders lightened slightly as he recognized the spark of hope in the faces around him. A few people exchanged looks, whispers of excitement starting to build. The chatter was invigorating. He felt a flicker of resolve. Mia stepped forward again, enhancing the air of authenticity. "And their essay project," he proposed, "a way for us to come together, to ease the burdens in our community. It's about helping each other, just like he always wanted." Jake's heart soared at Mia's encouragement, and he glanced around, locking eyes with some of the familiar faces. "My father believed we could do more together. I want to rebuild that dream. I want to honor him by starting a community center, a place where anyone can come for help, to learn, to connect." Cheers broke out from the crowd, and for the first time in years, Jake felt hope blossoming within him. Yes, there would be challenges, but the prospect of changing lives, of making a difference, ignited something in him that felt lost for so long. As the applause crescendoed, a beautiful old woman from the crowd stepped forward, her eyes glistening with tears. "Your father helped me when I lost my job. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. We'd love to help you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Jake's heart swelled. This was it, the connection he had yearned for. The healing began here, in this moment, amongst the people who loved his father. But just as he began to feel a swell of gratitude, a shadow of doubt crept back. What if this wasn't enough? What If the project failed, like everything else in his family's history? The nagging fear settled in the back of his mind. As he looked at Mia, leaning towards him as if reading his thoughts, he realized this might be just the beginning of a much larger journey. "Jake," she said quietly, "are you ready?" Ready? What did that really mean? Knowing that the past would be part of the process, he swallowed hard, returning her unwavering gaze. "I think so, but what if the past comes back to haunt us?" He replied, the vulnerability creeping into his words. Mia smiled softly, "Then we face it together." He nodded slowly, determination beginning to forge within him. The path ahead remained unclear, filled with uncertainties and old fears, but the warmth of the crowd lit a fire in his spirit. Jake took a deep breath, ready to take that step into the unknown. With the echo of applause ringing in his ears, he knew one thing: the time had come to embrace the shadows of his past, for there was a future waiting to be built. And as the festival lights twinkled softly overhead, Jake felt a stirring in his heart. Little did he know, behind the roots of his father's dream lay a revelation that would change everything, something he least expected but desperately needed. What was Mia hiding that could shift the very foundation of his journey? Jake stood on that makeshift stage, surrounded by faces that had witnessed both joy and sorrow. The cheers still echoed in his ears, but doubt hung thick in the air. For every applause, there was a memory that whispered of failure, a voice reminding him of the family legacy he had tried to escape. The warmth from the crowd felt like a gentle embrace, yet the burden of their expectations pressed heavily on his shoulders. Mia leaned closer, brushing her fingers against his arm. "You're making a difference. Just look at them." Her voice was the steady rhythm he needed, a lighthouse guiding him through a fog of anxiety. He took a deep breath, scanning the crowd. "Thank you," he said, the words spilling out with more confidence. "Thank you all for believing in this idea. I can't do it alone, though. We need everyone's support to bring this vision to life." A strong man in the back raised his hand, a hint of laughter in his voice. "I'll volunteer." "You need a heavy lifter, right?" The crowd erupted in laughter, and it was infectious. People started calling out, throwing their names into the ring, offering skills from carpentry to gardening, cooking to teaching. Each declaration sparked a flicker of hope deep within Jake. This was exactly what he needed. As excitement mounted, Mia stepped back from the stage, leaving room for Jake to engage with the community. He moved down into the throng, connecting one-on-one. Each handshake, every smile, lit a fire in him, reminding him of the roots that still ran deep in Maplewood. But in the back of his mind, that nagging fear curled like a vine. Could this be real? Would they still want to stand by him when his past resurfaced? An elderly man approached him, pushing through the crowd. He wore a worn-down hat and had a face lined with decades of stories. "Your daddy gave me a break when no one else would," he said, his voice cracking. "I've been organizing the town's summer festivals for years. If you need help with this center, I'm your guy." Jake's heart surged. "Thank you. That means so much," he replied, clutching the man's hand tightly. He could see the determination in the old man's eyes. It mirrored his own. This wasn't just about building a center, it was about healing a community, about lifting each other back to their feet. Suddenly, the crowd's jubilant atmosphere shifted, a collective intake of breath parting the laughter like a curtain. Jake turned, curiosity sparking within him. A tall figure had emerged from the shadows of the festival booth, clad in a dark hoodie. The moment their eyes met, a chill ran through Jake. It was someone from his past, someone he had hoped to never see again. "Mia, is that?" Jake's voice faltered, caught between recognition and disbelief. Mia's grip on his arm tightened. "Jake, I think you should talk to them," she urged. The figure moved closer, the hood pulled back slightly. "I never thought you'd come back," they said, their voice clear but laden with tension. Jake's heart raced. What were they doing here? The fear of exposure lingered in the air, heavy and palpable. He felt the crowd's whisper ebb, replaced by an uneasy silence. All eyes shifted to them, anticipation weaving through the spectators. "What do you want?" Jake asked, his voice trembling slightly, a mix of confusion and anger. "I came to help," the figure replied, their expression unreadable. "You're stepping into deep waters, and you shouldn't do it alone. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, emotions swirling like a tempest. The offer hung in the air, tantalizing yet terrifying. He wanted to trust, to feel hope swell within him that this person could truly help him build something meaningful, but could he forgive the past? Could they truly work together to create the future he envisioned? Mia glanced up at him, searching his face for answers. In that moment, Jake realized he stood at a crossroads, the past colliding with the present in a way he never expected. The future loomed ahead like a landscape of possibilities, yet one question remained unanswered: who could he truly trust? And with that uncertainty swirling around him, he pondered, was the help he desperately needed standing right in front of him, or was it a ghost from the past come to haunt him again? Jake's mind raced as he stood before that figure from his past, the weight of memories crashing over him like a tidal wave. The murmurs from the crowd felt distant, almost like echoes of a different life. All he could focus on were the features of the person he once knew intimately, fragments of laughter shared and sorrows shared alike now wrapped in uncertainty. "I came to help," the figure said again, their voice steady despite the tension surrounding them. "You're not the only one who has changed since then. I'm not the same person either." Jake caught a glimpse of sincerity in their eyes, but the anger buried deep within him clawed its way to the surface. How could they just show up after all this time? After everything that had gone wrong? He wanted to scream, to push them away, but something held him back. The crowd shuffled, eyes flitting between them, sensing the gravity of the moment. Mia's hand was still on Jake's arm, her silent support grounding him. In that ocean of confusion, she was a life raft. "Jake, you need to think about this," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the distant laughter and chatter. "What if they really can help?" He dared to take a step closer, his heart thumping loudly in his chest. "What makes you think we could even work together? You hurt me. You hurt everyone." "I know," the figure paused, pain flickering across their face. "And I've spent every day since trying to make amends. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I'm offering a helping hand. This community needs you and so do I." Jake's breath caught. The warmth of their tone pierced the chasm of hurt that had built over the years. Could he really consider this? Was there a path that could lead away from his fears and into something new? "I appreciate the offer," Jake said finally, his voice tremulous but firm, "but trust is earned, and you've got a long way to go." The figure nodded, as if they had anticipated the response. "I'm ready to work for it. Just give me a chance just like you once did." Uncertainty wrapped around him, but there was also an undeniable spark of hope. Would that promise hold weight? Jake felt a flicker inside him, something he thought long extinguished, the possibility of connection, the chance to heal. Suddenly, a child broke through the crowd, laughter ringing out like a bell. "Dad! Look!" She waved, holding a painting, a bright sun splashed with colors. "I made this for you." Jake's heart thudded again. The love in the child's voice was a universe away from the shadows that had once clouded his path. The figure's gaze softened, watching the interaction with eyes full of longing. They cleared their throat, breaking the spell. "You've built something beautiful here, Jake. Just like that painting. You can't do this alone, and maybe neither can I." As Jake mulled over their words, a wave of realization swept across him. The crowd was still watching, waiting with bated breath. He caught Mia's eye, her face a mirror of cautious optimism. Could this be the moment he lets go of the past? Against all odds, the future flickered before him like a distant star. "Let us start fresh. But I'll expect nothing less than honesty from you." A slow smile broke across the figure's face, relief washing over them. "I'll be honest, I promise." But as Jake turned back to the crowd, the warmth of the moment began blending with apprehension. He thought of the many hearts he'd need to convince, those who still remembered him as the boy who ran away, the one who failed. With renewed determination, he squared his shoulders, ready to face a new challenge. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, a sudden commotion at the edge of the crowd drew his attention. "What now?" he murmured, instinctively scanning the faces, hoping it wasn't another ghost stirring up trouble from the past. And as the whispers grew louder, he felt a knot of dread tighten in his stomach. His gut told him trouble was stirring, and he knew he wasn't prepared for what was coming next. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he heard the chaos erupt at the edge of the crowd. A cluster of people moved restlessly, eyes darting back and forth, tension thickening in the air. He could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. "What is going on?" Mia asked, her voice laced with apprehension. She squeezed Jake's arm tighter, grounding him even as anxiety threatened to spiral. Before he could respond, a familiar face emerged from the crowd, a tall figure with sharp features and an unsettling grin. It was Greg. The last time Jake saw him, it had been under less than favorable circumstances, a screaming match that left them both shattered. But today, Greg's demeanor felt different, almost triumphant. "Jake! Fancy seeing you here," he called out, his tone dripping with sarcasm. The crowd shifted, murmurs rippling through them like a wave, ears perked and eyes wide. "What do you want, Greg?" Jake shot back, anger stewing just beneath his skin. He had no desire to relive that particular horror. "Oh, I just wanted to check in," Greg replied, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Word travels fast around here. Heard you had some old ghosts come floating back into your life." The figure beside Jake flinched at Greg's words, and Jake felt a protective urge well up. This was not the moment for Greg's games. Amidst the crowd, he sensed glances exchanging, doubts brewing in the air. "Leave them alone. This isn't a time for your nonsense," Mia interjected sharply, stepping forward to shield Jake from Greg's verbal barbs. "Sweet Mia, always the defender," Greg replied, dismissive. "But let me remind you all, some things never change. You can't escape the past." Jake clenched his fists, struggling to suppress the anger that threatened to explode. He took a deep breath, steadying himself in front of his old rival. "Maybe the past can't be escaped," he said, voice even, "but I can choose how I handle it now." With each word, he felt a flicker of strength returning. He glanced at the figure from his past. They watched him with a mixture of concern and pride. Greg huffed, crossing his arms. "You really think you can just rewrite history? You think this community will back you? They remember who you were, who you left behind." Jake frowned at the implications, heart sinking for a moment. Greg's words danced around him like unwanted phantoms. But in that tricky instant, he recalled the warmth of the child's laughter, the hopeful words exchanged moments ago. "Maybe they remember, but they also witnessed change," Jake countered, his voice more assertive. "And if I can change, then so can others. I'm not that scared boy anymore." The ripple of murmurs shifted again, with some nodding, some frowning. Maybe they were starting to see the new Jake, the one ready to embrace the future and shed the weight of past failures. "Good luck with that fantasy," Greg sneered, but there was an undercurrent of uncertainty in his voice. Just then, a woman from the crowd stepped forward. Her face was aglow with determination. "You know, Jake's right. It's about time we all start believing in second chances. We've all faced our own demons, and maybe we're ready to do this together." Jake felt a surge of warmth wash over him. This was the hope he'd been reaching for, the light people were willing to embrace. They could change, and perhaps he wasn't the only one needing that shot. "Amazing how much faith can change things," the figure next to him spoke, a newfound light in their voice. Jake shot them a glance, feeling the gravity of their shared possibilities, but Greg scoffed, his expression hardening. "Faith might not save you this time, Jake. I'll show you." Instinctively, Jake tensed as Greg turned away, a dangerous glint in his eyes. What did he mean? Jake's pulse raced. This wasn't over. Across the sea of faces, the energy shifted again. There was fear, yes, but it was mingled with something stronger, resolve. As he stood there, uncertain of what tomorrow might bring, an undeniable determination flickered inside him. This was the moment where everything could pivot, a choice laid bare in front of him. "Let us do this together," Jake called out to the crowd, his voice steady amidst the chaos. "We're more than our pasts. We can shape our futures." And just as the crowd began to respond, the ground beneath them trembled, shaking Jake's resolve. What was this? A deeper rumble echoed through the air, an ominous sound that sent a jolt of unease through him. Is that? Mia began, confusion mingling with fear. Jake's heart dropped. What had he stirred? What new challenge was brewing just as hope rekindled? Suddenly, an ear-splitting crash rang out, and everything changed once again. As the crash reverberated through the crowd, Jake's heart raced. Faces around him twisted in shock, some mouths agape, others screaming in confusion as the ground continued to quake. Dust billowed into the air like a smoke marker of impending chaos, and Jake instinctively took a step closer to Mia, his protective instincts kicking in. Jake! What is happening? Mia's voice trembled, and Jake could feel her grip tightening on his arm. He glanced around. People were shoving each other in panic, trying to retreat from whatever danger threatened them. His mind raced. He had spent so long focusing on the ghosts of his past, and now here stood another looming fear. What if they were all trapped in this chaos? Just as the uncertainty overwhelmed him, a flicker of determination sparked once more. We need to help them. Jake shouted, raising his voice over the rising din. The crowd was stirring, some people turning back, others still frozen in fear. He looked at the woman who had just spoken, her eyes wide but her stance strong. Okay, she yelled back to him. Let us organize. We can create a path. Jake nodded, and together they began shouting orders, urging people to move, to stay calm, to form a line. Others stepped forward, driven by the same purpose, and for a fleeting moment, he felt the hope swell within him once again. Even amid the chaos, there was a chance to unite. Then came another crash, louder than the last, rattling the ground beneath them. Jake stumbled slightly, heart racing as dust fell from above. The crowd screamed collectively, a raw sound that sent a chill down his spine. A wave of fear threatened to crash down over him, but he looked at Mia, who met his gaze with wide, earnest eyes. He knew he couldn't falter now. Stay together. He shouted once more, his voice slicing through the panic. The urgency in his tone seemed to snap some people back into action. With tightened jaws, they began to work together, forming a human wall to protect those who were scared. Through the shifting shadows, Jake could see Greg lurking in the distance, his amused expression replaced by a glimmer of fear. It was disconcerting, something had been unsteady about him from the start. Maybe deep down, he felt the same dread that now enveloped them all. There was no winning in chaos. As they orchestrated a retreat away from the building that had cracked open like an overripe fruit, someone in the back screamed, the other entrance. We should get out while we can. Jake turned, eyes darting to where they were suggesting. Hope soared, followed quickly by rising dread. Right. We can't leave anyone behind. Together, they began pushing towards the other exit. The swarming people created a torrent, and Jake found himself pulled along in the tide, the adrenaline coursing through him like wildfire. He kept glancing back to Mia, ensuring she was still with him, but just as they reached the door, another revelation hit him. Was Greg still watching? Jake turned, searching frantically through the mist of chaos, but he saw nothing. Had Greg left, or was he still lurking about to stir more trouble? Then from the corner of his eye, he spotted the figure from his past, the one who stood beside him earlier, filled with newfound light. Their face twisted with anxiety, clearly overwhelmed by the swirling wave of panic enveloping them. Jake's heart sank. They needed to get out. Whatever the future held, he couldn't bear to leave someone else behind. Without thinking, he shouted over the cacophony, "Stay close. We're getting out together." Despite the chaos, their voice called back, "Go. We'll follow." But the ground trembled once more, and with it came a deafening crack. Jake! Mia's voice broke through the disarray, panic electrifying the air. Run! He urged, even as his heart clutched in fear for the figure still behind. As they surged toward safety, his resolve solidified. He couldn't turn away from this moment. What had Greg promised would happen? Was this truly the end of the start he had begun to forge? Just as they burst through the exit, he could feel the Air shifting, something darker and more dangerous was set to unfold. They were outside, but what loomed inside him was still exposed. And deep down, he felt it. Greg wasn't finished yet. Jake stumbled into the daylight, the world outside roaring in contrast to the chaos they'd just escaped. Fresh air filled his lungs, but his heart raced not from fear, but from a pulse of adrenaline driven by purpose. The festival scene had transformed into a mixture of excitement and concern. People were gathering away from the building, glancing over their shoulders as if expecting more tremors. "I need everyone to stay calm," Jake called out, raising his voice to cut through the clamor. Turning towards Mia, he felt an electric connection, the kind that reminded him they were in this together, chasing the same dream amidst the storm. "Let us get everyone organized," he urged, pointing to a nearby area where they could regroup. Mia nodded, her determination crystal clear as she started rallying people, sending them to check on others and reassure those who were frazzled. Jake turned back to the chaos behind him, keeping an eye out for the person from his past, the one who had stepped forward and offered help amid the chaos. "Hey!" he shouted, searching through the crowd that had gathered, hoping to see their familiar face. Finally, the figure appeared, their expression a mixture of surprise and resolve. "I'm here," they said, joining him at the forefront. He felt a sense of calm wash over him as he saw their presence, like finding an anchor in stormy waters. "We're building something bigger than ourselves," Jake said, casting a glance at the townspeople. "The foundation for that something is trust, and we need to start now. Let us figure this out together." The instant sense of unity fueled his spirit, shoulders relaxed, hearts aligned in collective determination. Just then, Greg's face reappeared in the throng, a malicious twist to his grin. "You really think you can pull this off? With your shiny words and empty promises?" he taunted, his voice slicing through the newfound hope, as if trying to plant seeds of doubt. Jake faced him, breathing deeply, igniting the quiet strength within him. "Believe it or not, Greg, I don't have to do it alone any longer. We all want to see Maplewood thrive, despite our past mistakes and failures." The crowd murmured in agreement, the ember of hope feeling brighter. "But do they believe you?" Greg sneered, engaging the crowd like a puppeteer. "That's the real question, isn't it?" It was a powerful taunt, and the uncertainty hung palpable in the air like a heavy fog. Jake braced himself, exuding the calm he'd found amid the chaos. "They do believe in second chances, Greg. That's what I'm fighting for." He turned to the audience, eyes sweeping across familiar faces, those who had shared laughter and tears, those who had seen each other struggle over the years. "Do you believe in this vision?" His call rattled in the air. A mother stepped forward, clutching her child's hand tightly. "I do," she said firmly, and one by one, heads nodded, hands raised in solidarity. Hope sparked anew in the air, defying the uncertainty brewing just a moment ago. Like sunlight piercing through dark clouds, Jake felt the vigor swelling within him. "Then let us take it one step at a time." He turned back to Greg, finding strength in not just his words but the purpose behind them. "I'm ready to connect with this community, to resurrect all the goodness my father tried to build. Whether you choose to be part of it or not, some burdens are meant to be shared." As he spoke, the crowd grew louder, voices blending together in affirmation and resolve. But just as the energy peaked, he could see a shadow flicker behind Greg, an unmistakable sign that trouble wasn't over yet. Just then, the crowd moved as one, a surge of collective action pushing toward Jake, who sensed the shift. People were stepping around him, eyes narrowed with focused intent, determination welding them together against whatever fears loomed. "And what is stopping you from saving this town?" Greg shouted, clearly trying to sow dissent. Yet, beneath the murmuring voices rose a collective cheer, affirming their belief in a brighter path. "We're not running away from shadows anymore. We're stepping into the light," Mia shouted. The thunderous applause from the crowd swirled around Jake, sending electric goosebumps up his arms. Then, through a veil of dust and twisted hope, a low rumble echoed. Jake's breath quickened. "Everyone, move back," he yelped, driven by a sudden urge to protect those gathered. "We've been given the chance to rise. But not if we let fear consume us." The crowd shifted, forming a protective circle around Jake, Mia, and their figure from the past. Hearts pounded in unified rhythm, courage blossoming amongst faces turned toward tomorrow instead of lingering in yesterday's haunting shadows. "Are you with me?" Jake bellowed, allowing himself to feel the empowerment in unity. "Together, let us rise above the rubble." Cheers erupted, hands clapped, and for the first time in ages, the doubt that had chained him began to shatter. He felt alive with the excitement of creating a brighter Maplewood, not just for himself, but for every soul willing to find their strength again. Just then, someone from the crowd shouted, "Let us build our future." The declaration echoed, igniting even more fervor among their numbers, and in that monumental moment, Jake finally grasped the powerful truth: this wasn't about erasing the past, but transforming it into a catalyst for a thriving future. So he took a deep breath, looking at Mia and the kind figure from before. The strength of their bond illuminated the path forward. As he turned to face the crowd once more, he realized that they were all ready to fight for what mattered. Maplewood wasn't just a town, it was a community, a tapestry woven with resilience and love. In the face of everything that had once haunted him, he finally declared, "This is our moment. Time to overcome." And as hope swirled like a fresh breeze, the community erupted, breaking through the noise of doubt, ready to rebuild their legacy together, step by step. Now, Jake smiled bright, his heart full, knowing that this was where he belonged. His journey wasn't just about him anymore, it was about all of them, side by side. This was just the beginning. And as the sun set over Maplewood, casting golden rays on their future, Jake finally understood, by embracing one another, they could forge a powerful bond that would last through every storm that dared to come. If you felt that journey with us, if this touched your heart, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your thoughts about Jake's transformation and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring tale. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your support means the world.